Farmers are pushing yields higher and higher each year, doing more with less and adjusting to changing consumer demands like sustainability and transparency. For producers, meeting critical nutrient demand is more important than ever for profitability. Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Christina Loren. As we head into the 2021 planting season, getting farmland in tip-top condition is a priority for the nation's producers. And joining us tonight to help our farmers meet that goal, we welcome the manager of agronomy with Crop Vitality, Dr. Zack Ogles. We also welcome Dr. Beth Guertal, professor of agronomy with Auburn University. Now, in just a little bit, we're going to open up our phone lines and bring you into the conversation. But first, Zack, for those who are unfamiliar, tell us more about Crop Vitality and the unique focus on sulfur.
Yeah, so Crop Vitality, we are the world's largest producer of thiosulfate-based liquid fertilizers. We are the originators of Thiosol, which is the 120026 that all of our growers are accustomed to. We also produce KTS, MagThio, CATS, slow-release nitrogen product, and KRO 23. So we have a diverse portfolio of products, and we have been a leader in sustainability for many years. The process by which the sulfur is being produced is by largely by removing sulfur emissions from petroleum products. So yeah, we've been involved in the sulfur industry for many years.
You know, sustainability is kind of where we're going to put our focus tonight because it is such an important topic in agriculture right now. Dr. G, let's talk about the importance of sustainability in agriculture and your research in nitrification.
Sure. So we're doing our research in cooperation with the Crop Vitality, and Zack has been very kind, and the company is invested in a quality research program, and we're lucky enough to do that at Auburn. So there's kind of lots of places that nitrogen can go, and sort of think of it as like all these little off-ramps in the system, and you don't really want your nitrogen to go. You want it to stay in the rooting zone so the crop can take it up. So one of the things we look at is nitrification. Nitrification is plants take up two forms of nitrogen. They take up ammonium nitrogen and they take up nitrate nitrogen. And you prefer that your nitrogen stays as ammonium so that it hangs around in the crop profile and doesn't leach, which means moves downward potentially to groundwater. So we look at nitrification, which is the conversion of that ammonium nitrogen to nitrate, and a various range of microbials do that.
Yep. And a lot of the work that we've done with Dr. Guertal at Auburn, we've also replicated this research at our learning center out in Dainuba, California. But one of the main focus of the nitrification aspect of it is to look at different rates of thiosulfates and how our Crop Vitality products are slowing down that conversion of ammonium to nitrate. And so what that does, as Dr. Guertal pointed out, is that keeps the nitrogen in a stable form. It allows for the nitrogen to stay in the root zone, and it doesn't allow for the nitrogen to leach in the form of nitrate. As you can see on the graph here, what we saw is that if you have at increased rates of thiosulfate, you can really significantly slow down the conversion of ammonium to nitrate. And again, that's going to protect the groundwater, that's going to allow that nutrient to be used by the plant, and it's not going to be lost to the environment potentially through denitrification, because it can be lost as nitrous oxide and essentially lost by the plant. So, and of course, there's environmental impact of that as well. So, yeah, as you can see, we have really strong effects on nitrification. And again, this is something we're really excited about and look forward to explaining ways that we can use this in the field.
Yeah, no, this is exciting, and obviously whenever it comes to environmental issues right now, it's front and center. It's top of mind for everybody, not just here in the United States, around the world. So this is something that we're going to continue to talk about going forward as well. Let's talk about the role that nitrification and volatilization play in sustainability, and when it comes to a farmer's profitability in particular. I understand that you have some studies that you can share with us.
Right, we do. So one of the studies that we had looked at, again, we looked at nitrification, which that is keeping the nitrogen in a stable form in the soil. But one of the main source of nitrogen in agriculture is urea nitrogen. And so one of the characteristics of urea is that it can lose nitrogen in the form of ammonia. And of course, this is bad for several reasons. One of which is it's a greenhouse gas. It's bad for the environment. And also from a grower's perspective, it's lost. They could potentially have a yield loss from losing the nitrogen, and they're just really not getting the bang for their buck. They're losing money. So one of the studies that we did again at Auburn University, we set up some volatilization trials, and what we found is that when we include CATS, which is our calcium thiosulfate product, when we include that in a urea nitrogen blend, we reduce the amount of ammonia volatilized by over 80%.
Wow.
And what that can do is that can translate over into, for a grower, savings in their nitrogen. So if you look at maybe 40 cents per pound of nitrogen, and if you can reduce that, I mean, you have quite a bit of savings. You know, a grower could save $30, $40 an acre potentially under a worst case scenario, as we show. In the studies that we do, they are accelerated studies, and they show, as I said, sort of a worst case scenario, but what we can show for sure is that the addition of CATS really reduce that. And again, that's money in the grower's pocket, and that's good for the environment.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue when you get a combination of the two. You add to your bottom line, and you know that you're adding back to that land. And so many farmers, they pass that land on from generation to generation. They want to keep it in the best shape possible. Talk about why that's so important.
Well, so anything you do that provides sustainability and keeps the nitrogen around is going to help with the next crop and crop residue. And back to the volatilization, because we clearly show these products reduce that. Well, when is a grower really going to need to worry or think about that they might be losing up to 20 to 25% of their nitrogen to volatilization? Well, surface applied, anything that contains ammonium. So that's urea and UAN. No incorporation of it. So maybe you don't get a really good rainfall. Our research we've done in other areas show you need pretty much a good 1/4 of an inch rainfall to incorporate that urea so it won't volatilize. High residue systems. So back to this stewardship idea, if you're starting to use a lot of cover crop systems and no-till, high residue can also aggravate this loss. High pH soils and conditions where you maybe put that urea out on bare soil and you've got a little bit of a wind blowing and drying of the soil. And those are all the things that can aggravate loss. So you have these tools that can, and what they really do is they to some degree affect volatility loss. Some of the products work on the urease enzyme, but in general they reduce volatility.
And just to add to that, when you use these type of products, to help stabilize nitrogen, they're as Dr. Guertal has pointed out, they kind of provide you a safety net. But one of the great things about our products is when you're using that, you're also, in addition to providing a safety net for your nitrogen, you're also providing additional nutrients. In the case of CATS, it's calcium and sulfur. When you look at one of the thiosulfates, whether it be ammonium thiosulfate, or thiosol, or potassium thiosulfate with our KTS, you're providing additional nutrients, plus you're getting that stabilizing of nitrogen.
And you continue to improve the soil. So fascinating.
And protect water quality.
I love that.
To go back to nitrification, the reason why you want to keep things as ammonium is because it's a cation, and that means it has a positive charge. So it's attracted to the soil's cation exchange capacity, so it sort of sticks on there and it hangs around. Nitrate's an anion, it's got a negative charge, nothing to really keep it, so it ends up going down potentially into groundwater and certainly out of your rooting zone.
And that can cause actually health implications. I mean, if you have high nitrate drinking water, that can affect the way that oxygen is transferred into the body, and it can cause some serious health problems, especially with young kids. So, so it's definitely something to be concerned about.
And we've been concerned about it for a long time, and growers are very aware of it, and they will select their nitrogen sources to minimize it.
Absolutely. Yeah, with litigation and other things to consider now for farmers as well, the last thing that they want to do is add nitrates. We know that that they want to leave the land better. They want to leave it more sustainable. So this is great to have you on tonight. And to talk about something that's so important right now, we know that this is a little bit complicated, but we're going to try to break it down for you a little bit more. Let's dive into the 4 R's of nutrient stewardship. These are commonly referred to when talking about proper nutrient application in the world of agronomy. How do your fertilizer applications actually go hand in hand with those 4 R's? And talk about what they are for the viewers who might be unfamiliar, if you will. Right.
So the 4 R's are, I mean, that's something that really our company has put a focus on, and our product line fits very well into that. Again, our products are liquids, and so liquids, they tend to lend themselves well to placement. So that means that with the equipment that we have today, it's very sophisticated, and it's able to place nutrient right where it needs to go. So that's one of the 4 R's. We talk about right place. Again, this equipment that we have today, you know, you can put it out right when you need it. You know, you can have applications that right before tasking, or right when the crop really needs the nutrients. So there's the right place, the right source. We have sources of product that are very nutrient dense. Again, our thiazole is the highest liquid source of sulfur on the market. So you have really high nutrient value products. So you look at the right source. Again, the rate. Again, with liquids, you can control the rates very precisely. Whereas if you go out with, say, a spreader where you're broadcast spreading, maybe you can't control that placement or that rate quite as well as you can with a liquid that you can get down to maybe 1-2 gallons per acre. I mean, that is precision agriculture, and yes, that's really where our products can fit in.
I love what our farmers are able to do with precision agriculture. And Dr. G, I would ask you, you talk about the 4 R's. I'm sure that this is critical as you're teaching your students. Talk about, for those of us who are not super familiar with agronomy, why it's so important to understand those 4 R's and how they come into play when it comes to growing crops.
Well, they really encompass everything we do. So the right source, the right placement, the right time, and the right rate. And particularly when we talk about rates, and then making decisions about the agronomic placement of nutrients. So you've got cold, wet soils, maybe high residue. So now you're going to talk about a 2x2 band to really provide as the soil's warm and we start to get some initial root growth. And we talk about these kind of things a lot in class, and that and there's plenty of data to show you just can't fix something by over applying the rate. That just costs you in the pocket and it costs you environmentally. So you get the rate correct and you get it in the right place.
And just to add to that, our farmers, there's a smart group of people.
Yes.
They understand. They understand
yes.
business, and they understand the environment. Farmers do not want to go out and over apply fertilizer. They want to take care of the land. They want to pass it again. We mentioned passing along to the next generation, and so farmers are good stewards of the land. And like Dr. Guertal said, all these 4 R's, they go into taking care of the land and passing that on and improving it for the next generation.
I think every year farmers try harder and harder to get those input costs right on. They do want to try to get those input costs. They don't want to go over. They don't want to be spending more. So that's also a benefit of what you're doing. I'm really fascinated. We have a lot to get through tonight, but I do want to ask you right now, how do your retailers and your retailer network, how do they best implement the 4 R practices when they go out and work with producers across the country? Yeah, so our retail network and our network of distributors, those guys, they have really a good understanding of the 4 R principles. They understand agriculture, and they understand the need for precision applications. They understand that the right rate is what, that we need to do that. There's no need to over apply. You want to apply exactly what you need in order to get the maximum yield. And we have a fantastic network of dealers, and they all understand this, and they can, I encourage, our viewers to reach out to our dealers and allow them to help you through our network of sales specialists and agronomists. And cropvitality.info, if you are interested right now in what we're talking about, or maybe you have a specific question, they have put together a fantastic website. It's really easy to ask your question. You'll get an answer from a specialist. You can even actually look at research on the type of crop that you grow to find out how their products have fared. So I'm going to give you that website. It's cropvitality.info. info, and you can go there right now if you'd like, or you can get your question ready because we're going to open up our phone lines here in just a moment. But we're going to go to the phones and bring in Dave Skillstad, Crop Vitality Specialist. Thanks so much for joining us, Dave. We really appreciate it. Joining us from Nebraska tonight. Tell us how what we're talking about is helpful for farmers in your part of the country.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the invitation. I also appreciate in that little segment there where the anhydrous rig was going across the field, there was a Nebraska Husker logo on that tank. So that appreciate the plug there, guys. So looking at just what Zack, what they've been talking about so far. I've been watching the program, and really. In the Midwest, what is very common practice, obviously, is doing everything that Zack and Beth were talking about with different blends. And so, in this part of the country, that is probably the dominant factor, I guess, in not only the rates that you would choose, but also using. Well, what products are you going to go out there with? And so one of the things that they were going to talk about a little bit is a couple different blends that are pretty common. The one that Zack and I discussed at length is basically like a 13-15 4 blend with a little sulfur and a little zinc in it. And that blend is really designed maybe to be a blend to go on more structured to a certain soil type. So when we get into some of these coarser, more fragile, sandy soils where we're always more concerned about leaching, there's where we can put a blend together, get some sulfur, some thiosulfate in that blend. We know we're going out there with more nitrogen for a good reason, and so we want to protect that nitrogen. And so that blend is pretty common on those lower CEC type soils, anywhere from 15 to 20 gallons to the acre, and we can make that blend with Cairo as well. And so that's one of them. And again, the banding efficiency, I think, is what we always want to talk about, trying to keep that fertilizer in a concentrated band. And this maybe sound like kind of a statement that doesn't need to be made, but it's a stable. When we look at these blends with KTS and Cairo, we're building stable blends. And why I think that's important is because we want something that is not going to be maybe as susceptible to these spring temperatures where we go up and down, where we maybe get rained out of the field for 3 or 4 days. If you don't have a stable blend, you're going to be calling those dealers that Zack was talking about and asking them to come help clean out a planter. So that's really critical that we've got a product that'll hang together. And the other one I would just touch on briefly would be something maybe a little bit more in a higher phosphorus type starter, like a 7-24-6-4, where we're maybe not as concerned with getting nitrogen out there as we are getting some higher rates of phosphorus and potassium and sulfur.
And so, you know, we showed the slide that had some of the information about that particular blend. And so, and this is where we take the research that we are actually doing at Auburn, and that translates over into what a grower can ultimately do. And so what we show is that with this blend, if you go out at the rate that Dave is suggesting, you know, in this case, we calculated at 20 gallons per acre. Well, what we found out through our research is that when you go out with this rate of thiosulfates, that you actually are going to inhibit that nitrification. You're going to keep that nitrogen where it needs to be, and it's going to be taken up easier by the plant and not lost to leaching or denitrification.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And of course, this all benefits the growers. And we're going to take a look at some specific examples when we come back. But we want to bring you into the conversation tonight as well. Before we go to break, I want to give you the number. Our phone lines are now open. The number is 877-731-6733. Call in with your questions for the specialists with Crop Vitality. What questions do you have about improving your nutrient program on your operation? They're here to help tonight. I'm going to give you that number one more time, 877-731-6733. Stay with us. More Rural America Live with Crop Vitality. We're talking agronomy tonight. We'll be right back with more just ahead of planting season.
When we look at our product called K-Row 23, it is especially built to be put on the seed at planting time. It's a seed-safe application. You don't put a lot on, but that little bit that you put is placed on the seed so that when it germinates, that plant can take it up readily and you get a quicker response, increasing your potential for yield and quality.
Welcome back to Rural America Live. Joining us tonight, the experts from Crop Vitality. And you are an important part of this show. We want you to join the conversation. Give us a call. The agronomists and specialists are here to answer your questions tonight. The number is 877-731-6733. Just ahead of planting season. The timing could not be better. Dr. G, let's talk about the role that sulfur has played in agriculture over the last 20 years and why we're seeing an increased demand right now.
Well, we'll go back 30 years or so, and even maybe farther. But, you know, when I started this 30 years ago, and nobody talked about sulfur. There just wasn't really a need, or maybe there was this sort of standard recommendation for all crops, and we thought we were done with it. Well, as a byproduct of cleaner air quality and increased standards for air emissions, we have seen sulfur deposition decline. So back in the 70s and 80s, because of pollution, we were regularly seeing soil sulfur or sulfur deposition of 25 pounds per acre of sulfate sulfur. And now it's almost gone. So we are seeing in many parts of the United States now responses to added sulfur with our crops. So for example, the guys at Virginia Tech have been doing some beautiful work, Minnesota, Purdue. If you go to any of your websites for the various states, they often now have some sulfur recommendations and some advice on how to manage sulfur for crops. And we've seen it demonstrated very nicely in corn and soybeans and in cotton.
Oh, wow. Do you think this is a trend that we're going to continue to see? And is it being adopted more in specific geographic parts of the country than others?
I do think the trend will continue. We've certainly seen some evidence of it in some work in Alabama and Mississippi, like I mentioned, Virginia. So yeah, it's starting, perhaps maybe not so much in the northeastern United States, which is still a little more industrial, but certainly in other areas, yes, it's starting to become, not every crop, not every year, not every field. But if you are on sandy soils with low organic matter, possibly, using irrigation, I'm probably going to start recommending some background sulfur.
Wow.
And that's been the trend across really the country. I mean, you know, with you know, my job, you know, I work all the way, you know, throughout the United States, and really there's been a trend in emphasis on the importance of sulfur. And again, you know, a lot of the soils that we produce on are low cation exchange capacity soils, which means they're typically more sand and they're easy to leach material through. As Dr. Guertal mentioned before, nitrate leaches because it's negatively charged. Well, sulfate is also negatively charged, and so it's not something that you can just put out and forget, and it's there forever. So it's a maintenance thing. You know, on an annual basis, you know, you have to think about what you're trying to grow and make sure that you provide that. Just to add to it, the you know, new varieties. We have really high yielding varieties now, and you know, when you're trying to grow these varieties that are potentially able to make very, very high yields, well, you have to give them the building blocks to do that. And of course, sulfur is essential to that. In addition to sulfur, this is a standalone nutrient. The ratio of sulfur and nitrogen together is very important. Without sulfur, you know, plants cannot process the nitrogen. So plants will not be, they may have nitrogen there, but if they have a sulfur deficiency, the nitrogen is not usable by the plant. So what you'll end up with is stunted growth and plants that really don't live up to the genetic potential that they could.
Now, Zach, I know y'all have done research in that didn't include us. Did you had some nitrogen to sulfur ratios, right?
We did. We looked at several different crops at the Learning Center in Dainuba, and one of which was we looked at a broccoli trial. And the reason we choose broccoli is one, it's an economically important crop. And also that most brassica crops, or all brassica, any brassica crops are very, they're sulfur demanding. They use a lot of sulfur, and so we compared different rates of nitrogen and sulfur, or different ratios of nitrogen to sulfur. And what we found was about a 6-to-1 ratio is about where we saw the optimal growth. And then that's really, I think that would very likely translate into many other crops. I think some work had been done with cotton, and it showed very similar results.
Oh, that 6-to-1 ratio. Interesting.
And of course, that's not said for every single crop, but we definitely saw a response in sulfur at that ratio, and that's certainly not limited to just that one crop.
The conversations the two of you must have. No, I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge, and really it translates to dollars and cents for our farmers. So we sure appreciate you coming on tonight. Let's talk about crop vitality a little bit more. The original creator of Thiosol. Tell us a little bit more about this particular product and how it's actually allowing our growers to become more sustainable.
Right. So Thiosol, that is our flagship product. That's our largest seller, and that's a very important product to us, and for good reason, because it's the highest concentration of sulfur in a liquid. And so having a liquid, again, I mentioned before that you can use this very precise equipment to make excellent placement of the material. As we can see on here, we have sprinklers that we're running. You can run through fertigation. So it's very common to run Thiosol through center pivots or through...
well, we mentioned drip tape and vegetable production systems. It's got real utility there. Absolutely.
Thiosol is a very blendable product. It blends with other nitrogen sources very well. It's stable. And it provides a lot of advantages to many different application methods.
Well, there's a reason why it's so popular. The farmers clearly are very pleased with this product.
Right, and just in recent years, with our recent research, we've also seen that the nitrification benefits from Thiosol. Previously it was looked at that that Thiosol or ammonium thiosulfate was considered a weak nitrification inhibitor, but the work that we've done over the past 3 years shows that it's not such a weak inhibitor. It's actually quite a strong inhibitor. It is just rate dependent. And so now, as we see more growers looking to add more sulfur into their fertility program, these higher rates of Thiosol or KTS or CAS, they start to make more agronomic sense, and so growers are able to get that benefit of improved nitrogen use efficiency through our products.
The right rate. The right rate.
Exactly. That's
right.
All
right. Let's go back to the phones for a moment and check in with Andrew Gustavsson, a crop vitality sales specialist out of California, Northern California. Andrew, talk about some of the sustainable practices in your area.
Hey guys, great discussion tonight. Thank you. You covered a lot of ground really quick, and I'm trying not to be redundant. Sustainability is extremely important in California, and we have no shortage, probably like the rest of the country, of issues, regulatory and environmental. And so sustainability is very important to the grower. And in California, agriculture a lot of times is about water management. We have issues with water qualities and also availability. And one of the biggest hot button issues of the last few years in the state of California is nitrate leaching, and y'all spoke to that earlier, and about some of the practices that have happened in the past that may have led to the position that we're in some cases in certain areas. And the TKI product line fits very well into that sustainability equation. And one of the products I wanted to talk about in California is our CATS, or calcium thiosulfate. Dr. Ogles spoke about it earlier, and it's used with maybe in a blend with UAN. as a nitrogen stabilizer on surface applied ureas, it's a great way to go to add a little bit of calcium and sulfur into that program for nitrogen use efficiency, as well as just like I said, the nitrogen stabilization piece. The other thing that it does is that calcium in cats is readily available, so it's as soon as it hits the ground, it goes to work. So if we've got soils that are sealed up or having issues, if we have salinities or things like that, it goes to work on those. And in California, it's used as a soil amendment as well as a nutrient fertilizer. So it goes in there and opens up those soils a little bit and gets the nitrogen down where it needs to be, stays in that profile and that root zone. The other thing the CATS does, and this is kind of a simple solution, but a lot of these crops, we use a lot of nitrate fertilizers. They're very effective. And so the great thing about CATS is that it blends with most nitrogen fertilizers very readily. It's just a tank mix. And so during certain times or stage of growth with certain crops, we don't need as much nitrate in the mix at the time. If we're starting to bulk fruit or things like that, we can cut back on that nitrate. And CATS is a great way to add that into a blend and dilute that nitrate a little bit. And so simply reducing the rate of nitrate being applied at that particular time helps. And I believe that the sustainability piece really comes to everybody doing little bits, and it comes together as a whole. So really, crop vitality really has a lot to offer in the sustainability realm to the grower.
Absolutely. And cropvitality.info is the website for anybody who wants more information right now to check out. And I want to keep you on the phone for a moment, Andrew, if we can. I want to bring Zack into the conversation. Zack, we're hearing everything from Andrew, and he makes a great point. But what can you add to that about what makes CATS a great calcium product? Yeah, so I would just like to add on to some of what Andrew was saying.
Yeah, there is with certain crops. There are certain times of the growing cycle that you don't really want to add nitrate and nitrogen. That you want to add just calcium. And a perfect example of this is strawberries. As strawberries start to get close to harvest, you don't want to add a lot of additional nitrogen because it can affect the storage quality. But you do want the calcium because it improves storage quality. So what Andrew was saying is a really good idea to not to apply nitrogen, but to be able to get the calcium along with sulfur with a product like CATS. And that doesn't even speak to the environmental impacts of adding additional nitrates, which you don't really need. As he mentioned, CATS is a very soluble calcium source, which is one of the things that really makes it an awesome product. Is when it goes into the soil, whether it be through drip irrigation, micro sprinklers, or in a dribbled applications, many different application methods. That calcium is available at that point, and that's one of the reasons that it's so good for allowing water infiltration, because it doesn't have to solubilize. It's already there, ready to go.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, for joining us. We're going to bring Tom from Nebraska into the conversation now. Thanks for joining us, Tom. Go right ahead.
Yes, it appears at this point, at least, that we're heading into probably a cold, wet spring. And coupling this with the practice of strip tillage, with regard to nutrients, what advice would you have under those extreme conditions?
So, Tom, if in the case of really cold soils, or especially when you have residue on the field, it's going to be really important to make sure that the nutrients are present and in close proximity to the seed. One really important nutrient is sulfur. Dr. Guertal mentioned about a lot of the sulfur is maintained in the organic fraction of the soil, but when the soil is cold and when it's wet, which is very common in high residue systems, that sulfur is not going to be available to the plant. And so you want to put something down that is going to have available sulfur quickly once the plant begins to grow. And an example of that would be one of our thiosulfate products, or if there was interest in applying a in-furrow solution like K-Row 23, where you're putting sulfur right directly on the seed that will be immediately available once the seed germinates.
Excellent. Thank you for that question, Tom. We sure appreciate it. A testament to how smart our farmers are out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know. You know, it brings up a question for me, though. Can Crop Vitality just come out to your farm and determine your specific needs? Is that something they can help you with? Say you don't know the right questions to ask, for example.
Well, so at Crop Vitality, we have a network of sales specialists and agronomists, and we work with our dealer network, so we can provide that support. Often the local dealer would be a good starting point to have a farmer reach out to their local dealer, because that's who knows that area the best. And of course, then if there's questions on top of that, then they can reach out to the sales specialist or to the agronomy team to really get a detailed answer and to figure out what the best options are for our customers.
All right. If that's something you think that you might be interested in, you can actually reach out to a dealer very easily tonight. They made it easy for you. Just go to cropvitality.info, and there's a little questionnaire for you to fill out at the bottom of the page. Now, stay with us. We have one more block. That means you still have time to get your question in tonight. 877-731-6733 is the number to call. We still have more to talk about. More Rural America Live with Crop Vitality right after this.
Our one product that is not sulfur-based, and that is Ensure. Ensure is urea nitrogen, but it's in a slow-release form. What does that do? When it's in the soil, it actually, you reduce nitrogen losses due to leaching, which is sustainable. If you keep more nitrogen in the root zone, you lose less, more of it available to the plant for yield and quality. That's a sustainable program. We've done some work where we've used Ensure with UAN 32 solutions, so some quick release nitrogen to get that crop going, putting it on through the center pivot, for instance, on potatoes, and using some of that nitrogen as Ensure. We've done it not only on potatoes, we've done it on corn, we've done it on onions and a multitude of other crops.
Welcome back to Rural America Live. Joining us tonight, Crop Vitality. And you are a very important part of this show. Join the conversation tonight. You can give us a call, and the agronomist will take your questions. They have answers for you. You're not going to find answers like this easy, possibly throughout the remainder of planting season, unless you give one of their dealers a call. 877-731-6733. We're going to have more information on how you can get in contact with one of their dealers in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about what we were just listening to, Ensure. Ensure. Why do you believe Crop Vitality products like Ensure are the right source for farmers to incorporate into their programs?
Right. So Ensure is our slow-release liquid nitrogen product. It's 28% nitrogen. 72% of that nitrogen is slow-released. It's in the trizone form. So one of the things that's great about that is, as Mike mentioned in the video clip, was that when you can add that slow-release nitrogen to a quick-release source such as UAN or urea liquid or an ammonium nitrate liquid, when you do that, what you can do is you can extend that nitrogen out. What you do is, instead of having all the nitrogen available immediately, you can have the quick release nitrogen available and then extend that release curve out with the slow release nitrogen. So we've done, Mike mentioned work with potatoes, mentioned work on corn. We also did work, some vegetable work with this. And what we found is that when you're around that 25% of the nitrogen is from this slow-release trizone form, that's where we saw the maximum yield benefits. And again, it works to improve yield, but it also is a sustainability factor with this, where you're not leaching nitrogen, you're making the nitrogen stay in the root zone. It's going to be plant available, and you're not going to be losing this to the environment. So again, it helps the bottom line for the growers, and it also helps the environment.
I love it.
But you sort of forgot the most important thing, which is one of our only liquid slow-release products.
Very
so
true.
you deliver it in a liquid, which means you've got a slow release you can put through the irrigation pivot. We did a bunch of work with sod production with it, and it worked really well.
Wow.
And as a trizone, you get that extended release, but you've got a different delivery system than maybe having to go to a granular product.
And I'm glad Dr. Guertal mentioned that, because over the last year, we actually did some research on a sod farm, and what we were doing was we blended UAN with, I believe we used around 20% of the nitrogen came from Ensure, and we also blended in thiazole because for the nitrification benefits, as well as a sulfur source, because it's a very low sulfur soil. So, and we saw excellent results. It was a really good study, and it works well.
All right. Well, we're getting more calls tonight. We're going to go to Florida. Buford is up next. Thanks for joining us, Buford. Go right ahead.
Oh, hey, we're in Polk County, Florida, near Lakeland. And besides that, we do a lot of melons, a few hundred acres of melons. And besides the calcium deficiency, we're leaching a lot of nitrogen into the water, and we got to stop it. And looking for some solutions for leaching it, because we have a lot of ammoculus sand, a lot of fine sands down there, and got to stop the leaching.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the suggestions that I would make is to you potentially incorporate something like that trizone nitrogen. That's it's going to be it's a slow release product that it resists leaching. We actually have research that was done at the University of Georgia that shows that product is stable in the soil and doesn't tend to leach. And so that could be a good source, a good solution for you. Something else, particularly if sulfur is a consideration, to apply one of our crop vitality thiosulfates with your nitrogen solution, because that can help keep that nitrogen in the ammonium form, which is going to resist leaching, particularly when you have those sandy soils that don't typically retain a lot of nutrients anyway.
Are you doing those melons on plastic or bare ground?
Plastic.
Yeah, so you've got your drip tape under there, which means these liquids, you can put those out and just really kind of parse those out a little bit every week. University of Florida's got some great data on those N rates to do that, especially on that ammoculus sand, because, you know, we talk a lot about CEC, but we've never actually put numbers to it. You know, what is a range of CEC? And I bet your CEC is about 2 down there. So anything that's going to let you dose that out a little bit at a time, spoon feed, and then put in these trizones should really help.
All right. Thank you so much for that call. We're going to go to Kentucky. Rachel joins the conversation now. Go right ahead, Rachel.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. We've been hearing a lot about regenerative agriculture, and sometimes it seems like, you know, they're sort of anti-chemical, but I was just wondering, you know, what your thoughts are on that, and if there are still ways to incorporate different kinds of products into a crop program to still be able to make some long-term benefits to the soil.
Did you want to answer this one, or do you want?
Well, I think regenerative ag is a great question, and you're right. We've been hearing so much about it, and just the other day there was this big, interesting Twitter discussion just trying to put a definition to what that means. And it includes a lot of things like cover crops, multiple species, things to promote your organic matter, and a lot of these products would fit right into that, because if you want to promote your biomass growth, and you want to encourage microbial diversity, and, you know, how would the products fit in, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would fit well. I mean, they're, you know, obviously our products, they can be applied in a number of different ways, and yeah, I could see those playing a role in certainly in really any form of agriculture.
And I think it's a great question, because regenerative ag is really going to continue to be a watchword. It's going to drive a lot of what we do.
All right. Yeah, it's certainly coming up a lot more in our newscast almost every day now. Okay, we're going to go to Minnesota. We've gone all over the map tonight. Florida, Kentucky, now Minnesota. Elwood joins the conversation. Thanks for joining us, Elwood. Go right ahead.
Yes. You offer nitrogen and sulfur. And what other ones do you? And also, when's a good time to take the soil sample?
Yes, so we offer, you know, in our product line we have thiazole, which is an ammonium thiosulfate. We have KTS, which is potassium thiosulfate. We have calcium thiosulfate, which is CATS. We have magnesium thiosulfate and plus Cairo 23, which is an in-furrow product. So we offer a number of different options. But really, back to your question about the soil sampling, I would say right now would probably be a good time to go ahead and take your soil samples.
Well, he's in Minnesota.
And Minnesota, well, maybe not right now, but as soon as you can take soil samples, I think that would be a good time. And depending on what your weather's been. I know we've had some really strange weather. We've had, large snowstorms. We've had, torrential rains. And, big events like that, they can change the nutrients that are in your soil. Again, your nitrates can leach, sulfates can leach, even potassium on certain soils that have low, retention ability. So, yeah, I think now as soon as you can, get that information and then start kind of building your fertility program around that.
All right. Thank you so much for that call. We sure appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about why crop vitality merits consideration in a crop nutrition plan. I want to start with you, if that's okay.
Sure. So in a general way, crop vitality is an example of ag companies that do it right. So they sponsor a research program. They have people on the ground. And it's not just specific to crop vitality. There's many others that do, but it's a great example. So they're funding research into the products they sell. So after we get done with 3 years of research into nitrification and things, there will be technical sheets and there will be labels and there will be websites that growers can go to knowing that it's research-backed when they have product selection.
And, just from my perspective, the reason we should be considered part of the fertility program and is because we're more than just a fertilizer company. And we produce, fertilizers, but we provide the support. We provide specialists who understand our products, agronomists who understand our products. And we support research that helps everyone better understand our products. And we try to make this knowledge available to people. We want to share this information. We want the best outcome for our customers. We want to see people do well. So, yeah, certainly if anybody's listening to this, we certainly want to play a role in helping you do the best you can do.
I love that. And boy, when it comes to helping farmers, in my opinion, there's no better group that you could help, and they sure appreciate what you do and your authenticity. So thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit more about how people can get more information and bring in A.J. Kalinowski, Crop Vitality Marketing Specialist, to talk about how you can find out if this is a good option for your operation and access the network of experts with Crop Vitality. Where do we need to go, AJ?
Yes, thank you, Christina. And as you guys at home have heard, we're all about sharing our information and our research here at Crop Vitality. So we really encourage you to head over to cropvitality.info and check out some of the extra information we've got on there. And get in touch with us. We've got guys coast to coast in every region to know the have a local understanding of the weather, the soil types. They really know their areas. We've got agronomists across the nation as well that are ready to support you. Share some data, knowledge, their understanding of your area. So if you head over to cropvitality.info, we've got a lot of great info for you on there. You can reach out. We'll get you in contact with the guy in your area that understands exactly what you're dealing with. And yeah, we look forward to talking to you and hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, and if you didn't want to call in tonight, you can also go to cropvitality.info and get your specific question answered from the experts. And AJ, is there a number that people can call as well if they don't have access to a computer, for example?
The best way would be to go through cropvitality.info. If not, you can find one of our brochures as well that will have our information on it.
Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate it and the opportunity to just go there and to take a look at the research. Say you grow strawberries or you grow plums, for example, tangerines. You can see how the products have fared, and you get to look at the data, you get to look at the science, and you get to digest it and analyze it yourself. We know our farmers like to do that. You know, we only have a little bit of time left. I did want to ask you, though, what do you think is the most important message based on strictly tonight's show that you want to leave with the viewers? I know we were trying to concentrate on sustainability. Why is that so important to crop vitality?
Right. So You know, crop vitality, we're concerned about, you know, our customers' outcomes. We're concerned about the environment, and we want to make sure that we play, you know, a key role in preserving the environment for future generations, and we want to make sure that we do that in a way that allows for, you know, our youth, the customers and the farmers to be able to produce products, but do so in a sustainable way.
Yeah, sustainable way. And we know that obviously that's a buzzword.
Absolutely.
We're going to hear more and more of. Yeah, it absolutely is. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones. Marcus from Missouri joins the conversation. Thanks for joining us, Marcus. We still have time for your call. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering what the best way to incorporate some micronutrients into my liquid fertilizer program would be.
So one of the positive things about many of our products is that they are compatible with different micronutrient packages. Now, one of the things I don't want to tell you for sure that what you're looking at will be compatible, but many of them are. And so what I would recommend is, as you're using one of our products, just to do a test blend and make sure that everything stays in solution. You don't have any sediments form, and you'll use that. One of the great things about thiosulfates is that thiosulfates can actually help improve your micronutrient availability. They're considered a reducing agent, and what that does is they can help take, like say, iron, zinc, or manganese, and help them be in a form that's more plant available. So just on their own, thiosulfates can help with micronutrients. But my advice to you would be to take your micronutrient package and do some test blending to make sure that they are compatible.
All right, thank you so much for that call. We sure appreciate it. Before we go, I've got to ask about the research farm in Dainuba, California, because so much great research comes out of there. What are you guys working on right now?
So we have got a number of different studies going on out there. In fact, the nitrification work, that's being done out there now. We have, you mentioned, well, I thought it was, you mentioned strawberries, you mentioned plums, you mentioned tangerines. We have all of those literally out there at the Learning Center right now, all of which we've conducted research on. So that's really one of the great things about that location, is that it provides us with a huge variety of crops to work on. So right now we have a number of different trials going, and it's always exciting.
And you know, Dr. G, I got to ask you, it has to be a good time to be in the research field, especially when it comes to agriculture. Going forward, is there anything that you're looking forward to uncovering more and more of in this particular field?
Well, one of the fun things is we literally are in the research field. You know, we get to be outside. It's really great. I think as we continue, we're getting more accurate and precision-based in all of our farming technologies. We're getting new cultivars all the time, new delivery systems. So as a soil fertility person, I just love exploring new labels, new products, anything that comes along. And so this is just a nice new avenue to explore.
Absolutely. When you're helping out the farmers, you're helping out the environment, it is hard to go wrong. Okay, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers tonight, Zach?
No, I would just say, you know, if we can help, certainly reach out to us through the website and let us know if we can help. All
right, I want to get that website up so everybody has a chance to see it. It's cropvitality.info. And if we can just scroll it one more time, I just want to be able to show everybody, it gives you an opportunity to ask your specific question. And if you are looking for precise research, you can just type it into the text and they will do their best to get you some answers. Plus, if you want to reach out to a dealer, you want someone who knows the area to come out, take a look at your operation, find out what's best going to suit your farm, well, you can find out more information there as well. It's cropvitality.info, and we also have it up on our Facebook page and our Twitter page in case you didn't get it there. So really grateful for you guys coming out here tonight. Looking forward to another successful planting season, which is just around the corner now. And yeah, looking at some of those forecast models might be warming up here in the next couple weeks, especially in Texas. So we're gonna keep you up to date with everything that's happening. Really glad you were with us. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Rural America's most important network. Wishing you and your family a beautifully blessed evening.